Hello and welcome back to the channel, and hopefully plans will not go awry today. Hopefully nothing else will go wrong or need repairs or whatever, and I can actually crack on with actual woodwork. Plan of attack today is to use the bandsaw that I was replacing the tyre on last time and cut the panels down to rough thickness. Then I can put everything that I've done through the thicknesser and bring all of that down to an even size for every bit of the project. That's the plan, and hopefully as well the microphone's working this week. That means you'll actually be able to hear me. Whether that's an advantage is another matter. But anyway, let's crack on. Right, just setting up the bandsaw now. I'm on the 3 teeth per inch blade, so ideal for ripping even at high speed. The feather boards, I've stacked a couple of them just so that I've got a higher amount of pressure against the workpiece, and I'll put a link to it in the description. But a little video that I saw this week from Stumpy Nubs in America, and his comment about where to put fingerboards when it comes to a saw. Now, he was using a table saw, but the same principle will apply to a bandsaw as well. Really, you want the fingers on the infeed side of the workpiece, because what you don't want is for pressure to be applied on the outfeed side and you're pushing the cut into the blade, therefore pinching it. So his comment is, for a saw you keep the fingerboard on the infeed side of the blade. On a router table it doesn't matter, you can put the fingerboard anywhere. But as I say, I'll pop a note and a link to that video in the description later on. Right, let me pick the first piece that I'm going to be working with and then we'll carry on. Right, test piece is a little piece of scrap wood that's got splits all over, and I was just going to test that by way of, is this where I actually want the cut? So let's make a start. Now that's a lovely smooth cut, and I'm aiming for a cut of about 17 thickness of about 17mm, and that's 17.5. So I'll just reduce it slightly. Get the piece that I've just used. Make sure I'm moving it the right way, and that's about right. Right, let's give this piece a go, just to double test it. And that's 17.2. That's close enough. I'm not going to argue about 1/4 of a millimetre. Okay, so that's where the blade wants to be for this piece. I'm going to have to be moving the guard and the feather boards each time because all of the boards are a different thickness. But let's carry on. So planed side against the fence, planed side against the table. Oh, and I've popped a rotary roller stand at your side as well, so that the outfeed won't fall off the planet. Okay. Now what a lovely cut. Yes, just with a bit of sanding that would do as a nice finish, but that is excellent, cut very nicely. There was only a little bit of blockage toward the end of the piece, but that's given me a nice salvageable board that I can use. Let me just check on all of the widths. Thickness, well that's 20. Alright. And that's 17.2. That's 19. That's 17.2. So there is, on this width of board, there is a slope. So that says this is a little high at this top end, but 20 mil, 19 mil, I don't think I'm going to complain at that. I'll sort, if anybody's got any suggestions on how I can correct that, I'll look forward to hearing from you at a later date. But that's the first piece. Let's set. Now this piece, it's wide enough so that if I just split it down the middle, I can then get two 17 mil panels out of that, because it's 34, yeah, split that down the middle and we'll call it quits on that one. Right. So what did I say, 35 is 17, just make sure I've got the right distance still. Yep. Okay. Take my little note off. I can pop that on, back on later. There we go. Ears. It is. Just a tad out, so let me make sure that that is at 0. Just to make sure it is where it should be. That's all locked off there. Okay, let's try again. Looks like the blade has wandered, but I don't think it has. I think it's the actual timber that's not quite the right shape. But what's that resulted in? That's because they are definitely different sized thicknesses. So that is 19.5, and that is 13.5. But at this side they are roughly equal. That's 17. That's 17. So it is actually the board that is a different thickness. Okay, I can still work with that. That's going to be no problem. Oh, and just looking at this, I can see, you might be able to see it as well. Just there is a definite slope toward that bottom end. Well, it was the top end. So yeah, it is the board, it's not the blade, that's fine. So pop my note back on so I know which piece is which. And what I'm going to do with, this is the first time I've used this new tyre, I'm just going to check on the tyre and see how it borne up. Yeah, that looks nice. Tension is still good. Okay. Oh, and something I just thought of. The vacuum system is taking most of the waste. That's good. One possible reason why it was cutting at a greater thickness at this top end than the bottom, these two rollers at the top, the left hand roller was actually rotating, so it was actually pushing the blade that way toward you, therefore increasing the width of the cut. So I've adjusted that, and I'll see how that goes on subsequent pieces. Right. Interesting that there are some old wormholes in places on this one, but never mind. What I'm interested in more is, has adjusting where these bearings go had a benefit on the thickness of the cut? So that's 16.4, and this top end is 17.9. So it's still there, but I'm still open for suggestions what I can do to perhaps cure this, because I can't bring this edge of the table up, I don't think, but I'll have a look at that later. Anyway, I'm very pleased with the way that these cuts are going. I'm about, we'll see what happens when I actually cut it off. And there we go. What time is it? That's 3:05. I started this at about 1:30, so I've cut down a lot of these boards in an hour and a half, give or take, and everything has really worked quite well. The blade is quite cold, and the new tyre is bearing up well. There's virtually no dust in there whatsoever. There's a little bit, but most of it, that you might be able to see. Oops. Where are we? There we go. So all of that is sawdust that's come through the vacuum system. So I'm very pleased with the way that everything's worked. Right, let me tidy up, then I can get the thicknesses set up. Now, in the process of clearing up the sawdust that had escaped the vacuum, I was musing on how I can correct the unequal cut across the height of the blade, and I suddenly remembered that there's a locking nut here that stops the whole table from sinking down at this bottom end, and I'm thinking, well, here I've got the adjustment mechanism to move the table from upwards from the back, and I was thinking I needed to push this end down. It's a problem, I know I've mentioned it in the past. The problem I have is being able to get things into my mind in a 3D way. I have difficulty comprehending and imagining 3D matters, and I was thinking I needed to move this end down. But that sent me thinking, I have been setting the blade using this little engineering square that I inherited from my dad many years ago, and that's nice and square. But I was thinking there's still a couple of inches to go, so if I use the larger woodworking square, and it is very slightly out. I can't move the guides out up any higher. That's as high as it will go. But just looking here, it's very close, but there is a slight difference. So what I'm going to do is just move the table ever so slightly, so that will still be square. That's fine. And the gauge says it's only just over the 0 degrees. So if I lock that off, use a piece of scrap wood and just see, out of curiosity, what the result is. So let me reconnect to the vacuum. Right, a piece of scrap wood that ideally is 150 mm high or so. So that's a bit too high. That'll do. That's got a nice flat edge. That's a scrap piece because there's a split up the middle. So let's see how this goes. So yeah. .6 at the bottom. At the top it's 18. .3. Okay, let's try again. As I say, this is all scrap wood, so I'm not losing anything. No, a bit too small. Okay, so bottom is 16.5, the top is 16.1. I'm getting there. I need to take it back ever so slightly. Okay, this is exciting. It's a world of discovery for me. So just take it back ever so slightly. There we go. And let's try this one again. Let's try this piece. Again, take the top off. So the bottom is 16.8. The top is 16.9. I think I've cracked it. Okay. That's fine. At least I've worked it out. The penny eventually dropped. Good. I'm glad about that. So let me just dust off all of this, and then what I'll do is give the top a light clean and then an oil, because obviously this is cast iron and I don't want that to go rusty. It's something I ought to do more often, But hey ho, things are what they are. Right, and what am I going to do then? That's as far as I'm going this afternoon, and I've got through a lot of work, cut through all of these, and managed to work out where the table saw was going wrong. Well, I was going wrong with the table saw, the bandsaw, because of it using the wrong sized square for everything. But at least now I can cut squarer, I can get more even work cut out of that. So as I say, all in all, it's been a very profitable and useful afternoon in the workshop, and hopefully be able to crack on next time. And really pleased even so with some of the offcuts. I can really make good use of these. I mean, this piece, the thinnest side is just under 8mm thick, so that I can, even with a little bit of taking it through the thicknesser, I can get some useful thin boards out of that, and looking forward to that later on in my journey. So thanks for coming along with me, and just to keep you up to date, I noticed this afternoon the channel is now up to 151 subscribers, so thanks for coming along with me, and I'll see you next time.